So it's been a few days since the UbiForward event where we saw the future Assassin's Creed projects that are coming up. We've had some time now to digest. There's been a lot more information that has come out since then, because in true Ubisoft style, you can't actually give us the information we want at the event that we all showed up for. You have to then give it out in dribs and drabs after that, and then we have to wait for Access the Animus to post it all on Twitter. But that's where we're at currently. So there's been quite a bit of information, and I'm sure there'll be more. This is Wednesday the 14th, so I'm sure there's probably going to be more information by the time I put this up, because that is the nature of announcing anything with Ubisoft. But I wanted to give my more educated thoughts now that we've got a bit more info about what we're actually dealing with here, rather than just what they showed at the event. So, I'll start off we'll just go through the list here, and then there's something in particular that I want to talk about, which I will bring up later. But we'll go through what we've got on screen right now on the roadmap. So, first of all, Assassin's Creed Valhalla: The Last Chapter. This I am looking forward to, because I played that whole last game. I played 100, I think my final count after I did all the main story, and did kind of, I haven't finished every side quest, but I did go back in and kind of like try and clear up some side quests and stuff, because I'm not normally a completionist, but see, if you give me like that, how on the regions they had the little bar that showed you like how many things you completed, then it got a big tick at the end if you got them all. See, if you put that on the screen, it drives me mad, because I want to finish it. Even though I'm not a trophy hunter, I'm not an achievement hunter, it's not me. But if you give me a gauge on the screen of how much I've done of something, then it's going to drive me mad if I don't do it. But eventually, I haven't finished them all, because I did eventually get to the point where I was like, you know what? This is dumb, I'm bored. So I turned it off. But I think 110 hours was my final count when I'd finished doing everything I actually wanted to do. Except from when I went back in to do the Discovery Tour. So I am obviously looking forward to finding out the end of the story that I finished back in like February of 2021, finally gonna get the end of the story. We love that. But I am intrigued, because we did see modern day Basim in the trailer. We did see Animus Anomalies, which makes me think there's going to be some modern day content in there, so that intrigues me. Obviously, I want to see what happens to Eivor. We want to know, hopefully, that this will show why Eivor was buried in Vinland, why she was buried in America, and not over here in England, or not back in Norway, where she's from. So that's interesting, because we've always wondered, and we never had an answer to that question. The other thing, of course, people are wondering is whether or not Eivor will become a hidden one in this last chapter. Personally, I don't think she will. I don't think Eivor's goals align with the hidden ones, and I think after everything she went through with Basim, I don't think she's going to be particularly encouraged to become a hidden one. So, no, I don't think she will. I really don't think she will. But I guess we'll just need to wait and find out. Other than that, we don't really know anything. We know that Odin's going to have some kind of relevance, because we saw in the clip that Eivor was sitting talking to Odin on like a tree, what do you call it? Like a trunk, a tree trunk. I'm like a tree log, a tree stem, trunk. So that, he's gonna have some kind of relevance. If Basim's there, there's gonna be some kind of Loki thing, maybe. I don't know. I'm intrigued to see what they do with it, and I'm looking forward to being able to finally, like, close Valhalla as a chapter. The fact that we are getting a proper definitive end to that story is good, because it did feel, a lot of people said that the ending didn't really feel like an ending. For me, I felt that Valhalla went on too long, and a lot of people think that, but specifically, the, now what is it called, Hordafilke? The modern day ending was really interesting. Where you go back to Norway, and there's Eivor has to fight Basim and the old First Civ temple. But then you have to come back to England, and there's a whole other arc to do, and it just went on, and it was like, you know what, I actually didn't need all this. And then when you get to the end, the ending felt really lackluster. Like, Eivor's actual end to the story just felt like nothing. She basically, especially because of that badly done bit where Darby himself admitted that this was a mistake. It wasn't meant to be that way, but like she told Odin like that, she didn't, there was more to life than glory. But then she went like back to Hytham or whatever and was like, oh, I can't be an assassin because I like glory too much. Something like that. It's been a long time. It's been like 18 months, more than that, since I've touched this game. So it was a really, really bad ending, compiled by the fact that it had that terrible piece of dialogue that Darby said wasn't meant to be that way. It wasn't the line. The line came out wrong, but by the time everybody had picked up on it, and it was too late to change it. But he said himself that wasn't what he meant in that scene, and that it came out wrong. But it's too late. That's what you've committed to the game now. So it was a terrible ending for Eivor, so it is going to be good to get to see her have an ending that's not shit. Hopefully, because we haven't seen it yet. It may still be shit, but we're hoping for the best. Moving on to Assassin's Creed Mirage. Right now, I am still in the camp of concern, caution, not cautiously optimistic currently, just cautious. I hoped that the UbiForward might push me towards being more interested in this game because, I am a classic Assassin's Creed fan. I have wanted a proper Assassin's Creed for years. And so this should be appealing to me. And I've had people who are not quite as deep in the Assassin's Creed hell that I am that are like, oh, this looks really good. Or, Lauren, are you excited for this game? It looks like, it looks like the Assassin's Creed that we used to have. And I'm like, you're too far removed. You don't know. You've not been through the wars like I have. You've not experienced this the way that I have. You don't understand. This is not. You're getting. My point is, don't put blind faith in Ubisoft. Is my point. I hoped that they would show us something that convinced me. They didn't. They showed us a CGI trailer, which looked cool. I'm not gonna lie. There was some good assassin iconography in there. They had I've forgotten her name, but the mentor character was saying the 3 tenets of the creeds, which is cool. It does sound weird though, and I thought this before, and I couldn't remember if they did it in Valhalla, but she says like, hide in plain sight, stay your blade from the flesh of an innocent, never compromise the Brotherhood. But they're not called the Brotherhood, they're called the Hidden Ones. They're not called the Assassin Brotherhood yet, so why is don't compromise the Brotherhood one of the tenets? Are they called the Hidden One Brotherhood? The Hidden One's Brotherhood? Because I don't think they were called that yet. But anyway, I could be wrong, maybe they were using the word Brotherhood, but there was something, as soon as she said that, I was kind of like, because I was waiting for it to be different, be like, don't compromise the Hidden Ones, or something, but like, that's not what she said, and I was like, were they called that? But anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, so we saw that, we saw Throne Knights, we saw Assassinations, and that's good. But is it going to be what we all want? I honestly don't know, and I don't feel convinced yet. And there's a few reasons as to why I don't feel convinced. One is that the game was made on the Valhalla engine. Now, they have come out and said that as much as it was made in the Valhalla engine, they have redone the stealth. They've, Basim isn't just a reskin of Eivor. He's not going to act like Eivor. His movements are not going to be like Eivor. They're trying to redo the parkour. They're redoing the combat. That it's not going to be a Valhalla reskin in Iraq. Which is good because the stealth in Valhalla was shit. It was not good. And the game actively discouraged you from playing in that style. People will say, I've seen people online be like, but you can be stealthy in Valhalla if you want to. It's like, yeah, but the game isn't optimized for that. And it's clearly not the way they want you to play the game. They want you to have 2 giant great hammers in each hand, like one in each hand, and to just run into a raid and start bashing people in the face. They don't want you to sneak around and snipe people from a distance, or the auto assassination where you can, take down guys in one stab of the hidden blade is an option you have to turn on in the menu, and it actively comes up with a message saying like, we didn't intend you to play the game this way. Do you still want to turn this on? And it's like, we didn't intend you to play this game the way that the game has always been, that you can take down people in one stab with a hidden blade. But so, I'm glad that they've come out and said, we are going to redo that because we know that it wasn't, Valhalla was not stealthy and this game is supposed to be stealthy, so it needs to be different. And you can see in the picture there, you know, he's got the hood, it's got the crow at the front, he's got the hidden blade on his arm, he cuts off his finger in the trailer, so they're really going in on the actual assassin iconography that we know, the assassin lore that we know about being an assassin. But does that mean the game is going to be good? No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And I am still concerned, and I will change my mind maybe when we see some gameplay, but for now I'm not feeling positive because they haven't actually shown us what the game will look like. And I think there's something definitely very off about them saying, you know, putting out pre-orders and putting out collector's editions and stuff like that when the game, we haven't even seen what the game looks like. And this is what I'm saying, don't put blind faith in Ubisoft. Do not pre-order something from Ubisoft when you don't know what it even is going to look like in gameplay, because we just, at this point in time, we don't know what Mirage is actually going to look like in practice, how it's going to play, what the gameplay is going to be like. We don't know anything, so Norton, will you fuck off? So just don't automatically assume that whatever they make in Mirage is going to be exactly what we want, especially because, as they've come out and said since, there isn't going to be actual modern day gameplay in Mirage, and this is very odd to me, considering the way that Valhalla ended was with Basim becoming the modern day protagonist, which is a wild twist, absolutely wild twist, never happened before, absolutely crazy. Like, Cassandra showed up in an Odyssey and she was like still alive after like thousands of years or whatever, but for like Basim to just turn up and then become playable in the modern day was completely unprecedented. And even I was like, this is insane, but I'm kind of here for it and I want to see where it goes. And they've said with Mirage that they've actually decided to just basically have kind of what they did with Unity. There's going to be, the beginning is going to have some modern day, the end's going to have some modern day, but it's just going to be cutscenes, no playable stuff, because they wanted to focus on Basim's story. And I'm like, Basim is your modern day protagonist. You would still be focusing on Basim's story if you did that, but they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And I will come on later about why there's a real problem occurring with the modern day. We'll get to it. So that concerns me even more, because classic is, they're saying, you know, this is back to roots, back to basics, back to a classic Assassin's Creed. It's going to feel like AC1. But AC1 was also heavy on the modern day. Classic Assassin's Creeds, a big part of why they were Assassin's Creed, why we loved them, was because of the way that it mixed the modern day and the past, the way that what you did in the past was to serve the present, the fact that everything you did was to try and stop the war between Abstergo and the assassins and the present, and to take all of that out of the games is just so not acceptable. And it makes even less sense to do it in a game where they're saying that they're going back to basics. They're trying to recreate what the old fans loved, and at the same time they're taking out one of the massive aspects that made Assassin's Creed Assassin's Creed. So that in itself makes me very concerned, because it just shows once again that Ubisoft don't really understand the audience. And I just think, I'm just really concerned. I'm just not sure. So for now, Mirage is still something I don't want. But maybe they will change my mind later, but I have my big reservations. And, you know, to be honest, what I said before the Ubisoft Forward was that I'd finally come to a place where I could let Assassin's Creed go and accept that it wasn't for me anymore. And in a way I was annoyed that they were trying to draw me back in with the promise of like a game that I would actually enjoy. But right now, I don't feel like they have drawn me back in. Right now, I still feel very disconnected. Like, I'm looking at the screen right now, and there's, you know, 5 new things here. You know, 4 new games and a Netflix thing, and I don't feel excited. So, that should tell you something, considering this used to be one of my favorite things in the entire world. But anyway, so let's move on. Assassin's Creed Codename Red. So Red is the feudal Japan game that people have been asking for years. I was never particularly interested in feudal Japan. Like, I was like, you know, if they decide to go down that route, that's cool, and I'll look forward to it. But it wasn't something I was like gung-ho for. To be honest, there's never been a specific time period that I've desperately wanted an Assassin's Creed to take place in. I'm actually not that, I don't care. that much. I just wanted to play a game that had a good assassin story in it and that, you know, had good modern day. I really didn't care where the setting was. I wasn't one of these people that's like, I really want an Assassin's Creed set in Brazil, an Assassin's Creed set in, I don't know, Germany. Like, it's not, I wasn't one of those people, so I wasn't really caring about whether or not we ever got in a Japan game, but we are. But it's been made by the Odyssey team, Ubisoft Quebec, which is bad. They did make Syndicate, and I loved Syndicate, but they made Odyssey, and we don't like Odyssey, and they are known for making the lesser quality Assassin's Creed games. So, no. Um, it's going to be the RPG. It's going to be the same million, 100+ hour bloated fetch quest nightmare, Jiminy Cockthroat chaos that the past 3 games, particularly Odyssey and Valhalla, have been. So no, it's not for me. And no, I'm at the moment, I don't care about Codename Red. I'm not particularly interested. I just, nah. I think go and play Ghost of Tsushima. Um, but we'll see. But I'm not holding out any hope for Codename Red because I think it's just going to be another Odyssey, and I don't have any interest in playing another game like that. So, Codename Red is not for me. And actually, this is interesting because they have, I'll come on to that later, another thing that Ubisoft have said in the meantime. But let's talk about Codename Hexy. So, Codename Hexy is an interesting one because I said during like during the Ubisoft Forward when they showed the iconography, like the little wooden thing hanging from a tree, that it gave me the vibes of Valhalla, from the quest where you have to like go in and like shoot the cursed skull to get rid of like the curse on the land. And I think I was probably correct in that it's that kind of vibe. So I became worried that it was a fantasy game. Now, what we found out in the meantime, we don't know for sure, but between things that like Access the Animus have decoded from the logo and the video, and some people have managed to kind of like dig up, and there's been rumors flying around from insiders. We seem to think it's going to be a game set in Germany during the witch trials era. So it's going to be about the witch hunt in Europe. Now, as a time period, sounds super interesting. People are thinking it's probably going to have a female protagonist. It might be our first mainline Assassin's Creed game with a sole female protagonist. One of the Ubisoft executives or devs or whoever said that one of the upcoming games will have a sole female protagonist, and we assume it's probably Hexy. I think it's also possible that it could be Red, because in the video, the trailer, the Shinobi samurai? No, she's not a samurai. Ninja? Shinobi warrior? I don't really know what the word is. For that, she looked, or they looked like a woman. It looked like a female frame to me. But it could just be a very slender man. I don't know. But Codename Hexy could be our game with our female protagonist, and that in itself is exciting, and the time period sounds interesting, but what concerns me is that I don't want a fantasy Assassin's Creed, and we need to remember what Valhalla was like in a lot of ways. It's easy to kind of forget what Valhalla was because it was so big and there was so much to it, but Valhalla did have these quests that involved magic. And a lot of people were like, oh, but it was always like, because there was like mushrooms and she was high as a kite, but it wasn't always. Like the cursed skulls, from what I remember, had no like explanation as to why they were there, why Eivor was like, there is a curse on this land whenever she walked into the scene. There was those daughters of whoever the fuck, the ones that had their titties out and were really, really hard to kill. Those ones. The daughters of someone, I don't even remember. Lorcan, Leonard, something like that. So Valhalla did have some actual like mythical fantasy elements in it outside of the mushrooms and the Asgard stuff. And Hexy looks very similar to Valhalla in terms of its style, in terms of the little video that we saw. And also, one of the things I think is important to know about Hexy is that it's been headed by Darby McDevitt. Now, Darby is one of the best Assassin's Creed writers we have, undoubtedly. but he was the one who was in charge of overseeing, directing, lead writer on, as far as I know, Valhalla. And Valhalla is the one that had all the fantasy elements, the mystical elements, the curses, the witches, that kind of thing. And so I think Hexy will be a lot like that. It will take a lot of inspiration from those aspects of Valhalla. Now, I don't hate it. But again, we're just getting so far away from what Assassin's Creed is meant to be. And if we're getting more into like fantasy and mystical things, and we're gonna have witches casting actual spells and stuff, then that's not. Now, obviously, the witch trials, the people weren't witches; they were just women that people hated and decided to, like, drown in water or whatever. But considering we had like actual witches and mystic stuff in Valhalla, I think there is a chance that Hexy will be kind of like that. And if that is how it is, I'm not sure how to feel about it, because again, we're just getting so far away from what this series is supposed to be and just getting more and more into kind of weird territory. So that's my concern with Hexy at the moment. Codename Jade is the mobile game. It's going to be set in China. Now, what we know about this game, people seem to be very confused about what this game is. I think as well the fact that there's a Chinese game and a Japanese game coming out, both being announced at the same time, has confused so many people, because I've seen so many people being like, I can't believe the Japan game's on mobile, and then people are like, no, it's not, it's the China game that's on mobile, and someone's like, oh, is the China game going to star Xiao Yun? And then it's like, no, because it's not set in that time, and it's not a mainline console game. People are getting very confused about which one is which. But Codename Jade, what we seem to know is that, from what I remember at the Ubisoft Forward, I'm sure that whoever it was that announced it, I can't remember if it was Mark or if it was someone else, but said that you would design your own character. So you'd have a character creator, you can design your own assassin, which isn't good, because that means there's no lore. That means this character isn't actually a relevant character in the story, which means that anything that they do is pointless, because the character is not part of the overall narrative, because they are just someone that you created. That doesn't feel good. It's also, from what we know, set like a few hundred years or 100 years or something before Bayek even established the Hidden Ones, which is also what we have with Odyssey. And there's only so many times that you can create proto-assassins before it gets stupid, because already, we had Origins. Origins was supposed to be this big moment that, was showing the birth of the Brotherhood, the birth of what would one day become, will you fuck off, Norton, what would one day become the Assassins. And then straight after that, they released Odyssey, and they were like, remember that time that we saw the establishment of the Hidden Ones? Well, never mind, because now we're going back the way, so you're not going to see what happens next. It's not important. Here's Cassandra. And then, even in that, they were like, oh, but we had assassins that existed before that time. Oh, so here's Darius. Oh, and he can do the Leap of Faith, even though the Leap of Faith was something that Bayek taught his son, and he passed that down through the Hidden Ones and made it part of their, like, overall, like, what it means to be a Hidden One, was to be able to do the Leap of Faith as a kind of, like, to prove that you were, like, worthy of being an assassin, the way that he taught his son to do it, to kind of, like, build up his, like, strength and bravery and stuff. But then it was like, oh, but Darius does it as well, and so does Cassandra. But that doesn't matter, because that's not the same thing. They just do it because they're just jumping off of things. So again, if we go back and then we've got someone else who can also do it, it's just taking this thing that they turned into something that was supposed to be, like, really symbolic, and just diluting it every single time they bring in another story set before Bayek establishes the Hidden Ones. So that concerns me. But in any case, it's a mobile game, and I probably won't play it. And then finally, we've got the Netflix partnership, and they basically just said, hi, remember this thing we announced? It is still coming, but we have nothing to tell you. So that's all we have for the Netflix partnership. So moving on, I just want to talk about some stuff that's been announced over on the Access the Animus page. So one of the things that I wanted to say was this thing. No, that's a bit Bassam. Where is it? Oh yeah, okay, also yeah, apparently Project Invictus is the name of the multiplayer thing that they're bringing to Infinity, so that's interesting. That I am interested about having Assassin's Creed multiplayer back, because like I said in the Ubisoft Forward, I missed that the first time round, because there was no one on the servers by the time I joined the fandom, so that's interesting. Here, so it says, Ubisoft's VP of Editorial, Fozzie Mesmar, stated that the company will now approach projects with focus to ensure each game is honed to its target audience rather than trying to appeal to all audiences at once, and that might apply to Assassin's Creed 2. So, what they're essentially saying there is that they're going to stop doing what they've been trying to do for the last few years, and this is, in a way, a good thing. And that seems to kind of suggest why we've got... So what we've got here is we've got Mirage and Hexy, which are supposed to be linear story, narrative-based games that play like the old Assassin's Creed, and in between them we have Codename Red, which is going to be the bigger, longer RPG experience in the style of Odyssey and Valhalla. So what they're kind of trying to say is that we understand our fandom is divided. You know, Valhalla had that real problem in it where there was people like me who took a lot from the kind of more assassin lore type of things, but then got annoyed because there was too much that wasn't that. But then there was the people who just wanted an epic Viking fantasy that got annoyed with there being too much Assassin's Creed stuff in it. Like, I saw someone online who was like, is there a way to play like Valhalla but without the assassin stuff? And it's like, well, no, because it's Assassin's Creed. And it seems like Ubisoft have finally clocked on that that's not working. So what they're now doing is that they've said that Codename Red will be a shinobi fantasy. So what they're basically saying now is that, like, Mirage and presumably Hexy are going to be your Assassin's Creed classic type games, and then they're going to so they're going to alternate between releasing ones that will appeal to us and ones that will appeal to the people who just want to play epic history simulator. Fine, whatever. But what that does mean is that while they've said, you know, they're going to hone them to their target audience, which I think makes sense, it means that I can stop being disappointed by games that aren't made for me. But what it also means is that it's going to cause the overall series to lack focus, because if they're now flip-flopping between games that are Assassin's Creed-like and games that are epic history simulator-like, then where's the series overall going? And I think we can kind of answer that question with another post that's here on Access the Anima. So let's look at that for a second. So if we scroll down here, the future of the present day, coming from an interview with Alexi Cote. So, bear with. In Assassin's Creed Infinity, the modern day story will be removed from the games and it will have a dedicated space where it will live asynchronously, independently, but also concurrently with the various games. With Infinity, the modern day story will go back to having the player as the present day protagonist. Having a dedicated space for modern day and Infinity, players that are not interested in it will be able to access the historical portions directly, but at the same time, the team will serve better the people who love the Abstergo the Assassins, how this plays out, and give them more content. As of now, it is not clear if the modern day part of Infinity will be playable or not. When I asked Alexi Cote, answered that the Infinity Hub will evolve with time, and with time, it will provide opportunities for gameplay. So, what can we take from that? What we can take from that is that the Assassin's Creed series is dead. Like, this is no longer a story anymore. This is no longer a continuing narrative. This is no longer one series of one big long chain of games that are all connected to each other. This is not what that is anymore. They are now pretty much saying what my subsection of the fandom have feared for years, which is that they would eventually drop what made Assassin's Creed and just stick to making historical games. Just games where you are someone in a period of history and you do stuff. It's not a huge surprise. My heart sunk when I read that, but I was not shocked. It felt like it's been coming for a while. I hope that it wasn't, but I'm not surprised, because it's been quite clear for a long time that they have completely lost everything that Patrice Désilets put into this series when they created it to make what his vision of what Assassin's Creed was back when it was first established died a long time ago. That's not what we're playing anymore. And I'm not surprised that they finally said, you know what? We don't actually care about this anymore, so why don't we just drop it? Because we don't know what we're doing, and every time we commit more modern day to paper, we make it worse. So, apart from when they made Sean and Rebecca get married. And like I said, if they drop the modern day completely and I never see Sean and Rebecca again, at least they can't do anything to hurt them. At least Sean and Rebecca will be happy and married and they're probably going to have a kid, because Sean said they were going to have a kid one day, and I can live in the knowledge that they ended their story happily. That at least I have. But what it does mean is that, you know, they're saying they're not dropping the modern day completely. They're saying they're moving it from the games into this infinity hub, which at the moment we still don't really know what that is. But it does sound as if maybe it's going to be kind of like Assassin's Creed's Initiates, which was the online platform which kind of gave us like constant updates on what was happening in the modern day. And not a huge amount of people were on that platform, but I loved the story from Initiates. It was so interesting. That's where Galina Voronina came from. We had all sorts of really interesting modern day characters. Kiyoshi, I can't remember how to pronounce his name. You saw him in Odyssey. He was the guy that was like out on the rooftops that Layla was talking to. He came from Initiates. We had our first like Scottish assassin who was also transgender, which was awesome. You know, there was a load of really interesting characters in there and really great story content. And there was a bit where Sean and Rebecca went back to visit the farm that Desmond grew up on. It was really interesting. And if it's something like that, then I will definitely be keeping up with it, and at least then I will still get my modern day content. And actually, more than that, we might get it more regularly than having to wait for years for the next game to come out to get like 10 minutes maybe of content. Where if the good thing about Initiates was that they were constantly delivering us more modern day content, and the good thing about that also is that means I don't have to pay them for any more fucking games, so I can just keep up with the modern day story on this platform. And you know what? As sad as I am to see it being pulled out of the series, if that means that they are going to deliver us more regular, more focused modern day content, and maybe they will if they get someone working on this, if they get someone who actually cares about the modern day to sit and write some proper modern day content, I will be very, very interested, and I will keep up with it like my life depends on it. I am disappointed though, because it really did feel with Valhalla that like they were actually trying to get the modern day story back off the ground. You know, they had Layla went into the grey and she met the reader who is Desmond. You know, actual Desmond Miles was there for the first time in years. Actual Desmond, and we finally found out that he really was in the grade. Like, that was a huge deal. That was insane. Like, that was wild. That was everything to me. And then, you know, Layla died, and then Basim became the main character, and it was like, what? And it's just really sad because it seemed as if they finally had the modern day going somewhere again. It felt like there was a plan there somewhere, like they were trying to build back up to something, and they quite clearly went, nah. Which, as I said, is exactly what happened in Syndicate. People really didn't like the modern day in Syndicate, and I know why. It's because it was 10 minutes of cutscenes. I know, because I have those 10 minutes on my computer to make fan videos out of. But it was 10 minutes in total. That being said, what we actually got in the modern day in Syndicate, between what we learned in the cutscenes, what we learned in the Animus recordings, what we learned in the modern day database entries, was all very interesting. All this stuff about them trying to resurrect Juno, the fact that Violet DaCosta, who we'd known for a few years since Rogue, actually was working for, oh my god, what are they called? Juno's cult. Wow, that's how long it's been since the modern day had any quality to it, because I've forgotten the name. You know who I mean? She worked for Juno, and she was actually like running around in the background, and she brought the shroud to Grammatica so that he could try and like put Juno back into a physical body. And at the end of Syndicate, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing! This is going to be the best modern day ever! And then they turned around and they were like, actually, we're rebooting the series, we're making Origins, we're not going to carry on this story, it's going in a comic book, and then they killed Juno in a comic book. And it was like, Juno, who we've known since Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and they killed her off in a comic book. So it doesn't surprise me that they've done it again, but it's so infuriating, and I wish they would stop doing this. I wish they would stop making, at least finish your damn story, you know what I mean? Like, if, like... They could have at least done something for the end of the Juno story that actually involved us being able to see it. But no, they just moved. No, they just gave up entirely. So if you're only playing the games and you're not paying attention to any of the side content, it went from like, look, Grammatica and Abstergo are going to resurrect Juno, to here's some chick called Layla we've never met before, and she's in a cave in Egypt looking for the body of Bayek or Aya or whatever. And everyone's like, well, what happened with Juno? You'll never know, because they'll never tell you. So, yeah. So, that's where I'm at. That was a longer video than I meant. I was rambling there, but that's where I'm at the moment with Assassin's Creed. I think the best case scenario for me would be if all the modern day content gets moved to Infinity and it's actually interesting and it's actually focused, and I can just keep up with it on there and read about it like I do, like I read the plots of The Young and the Restless on Wikipedia so I don't have to watch the show. Because I used to be really into The Young and the Restless, and then I realised I was watching soaps, so I stopped. But I still keep up on Wikipedia with what the characters are doing, make sure that Lily Winters is happy, you know? But yeah, so if I could just keep up with it online and not have to buy these fucking games anymore, that would be a good thing. As for Mirage, time will tell if I want to buy it. Depends if they ever show us any gameplay that makes me feel any more encouraged. And then we'll see what happens with the next lot. I'll probably be back at some point to talk about the finale chapter of Valhalla, give you my thoughts. I am excited in some way to find out what happens there. I am interested. I played that whole game, so I want to finish it. And then from there, we'll see how we go with the rest of the series. But for now, I'm not feeling any more positive about Assassin's Creed. And honestly, maybe it's for the best. Maybe it's best for my mental health if I let it go. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Okay, so thank you for watching. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, everyone.